Good evening and welcome to Close Up. The ocean needs to be protected along with the boundary it provides. The National Ocean Policy represents a step forward for Fiji's ocean governance in that it endeavors to consolidate ocean initiative through its aim to increase integration between Fiji government ministries. My guest tonight is the Acting Manager Climate Change and Ocean Specialist, Mr. Kushal Raj. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
First of all, for the people who don't know, can you just explain a little bit about the National Ocean Policy?
Thank you. So the National Ocean Policy basically came into place this year. There has been some work done on this in 2017, and we've sort of moved forward since then and undertaken a lot of consultation to revise the National Ocean Policy to what it is today, basically, trying to capture Fiji's entire area within national jurisdiction for it to be protected, against the multiple stresses that we have, starting from climate change to waste and so forth. So really, this is a very holistic national document that encapsulates all the different sectors that we have, covering ocean governance to blue economy to climate change, and ensuring that we have a very holistic overview when it comes to addressing issues within our ocean and our boundaries, Fiji's EEZ, that is.
So just can you explain about the history of the 30% commitment being a priority for the government and this policy being under the Ministry of Economy?
Thank you. So in 2005, the first set of commitments was announced in Mauritius during a Small Islands Developing State Forum. And since then, the priority has been recommitted in 2014 as well as in 2017 with the UN Ocean Conference. And so the Ministry of Economy took lead in terms of designing this commitment, because we thought while we had actioned and bolstered a very bold event within the international space, there was no national document to back it up. And certainly you have to start from a bottom-top approach. So we had to go back and redesign a document that actually encapsulates and captures this commitment, and hence economy started consultations in 2018-19 into 2020, trying to formulate this very key policy document for the government.
I understand this policy will be enshrined into a law through the upcoming climate change bill. Can you just walk us through that process? How does that happen?
Thank you. So while we do realize that a national policy document is very important, there has to be a legal mandate to it, so that we have a fully functional committee that is able to make and take decisions on behalf. So there is a dedicated section in the upcoming climate change bill that gives authority sort of to the climate change division of the Ministry of Economy to come up with a secretariat role to this ocean policy implementation, and this is called the National Ocean Policy Steering Committee. The steering committee gets all key implementing partners and government agencies together to ensure that we have this important dialogue and these quarterly meetings and updates, so that you can stock take on our priorities that is set up in the 10-year implementation plan. So the climate change bill captures the work of the steering committee. It also for the first time reflects the Fijian government's commitment into law, which is 30% marine protected areas and 100% sustainable management of our area within national jurisdiction. So it's really to give it a very legal mandate and to ensure that we are committed to, and ensuring that we reach this target.
You mentioned about legal mandate. Do you think we are on track to achieve this target?
Thank you. In fact, yes. So we've been working very closely with the Ministry of Fisheries. They've undertaken, a set of final consultations towards, nearing what we would like to call the 30% designation of MPAs. So once this consultation and the outcome is finalized, we will have, our very unique bioregions and, marine biodiversity, mapped within Fiji's EEZ. And then once that is in place, which is, a very good effort that the Ministry of Fisheries has been driving so far, we would then, as Ministry of Economy and the whole National Ocean Policy Steering Committee, reach out to our bilateral partners. We have already started that, and I'm happy to let you know that we have some initial confirmation that we will be getting key players around the ocean space to fund our implementation plan, which means once our designation is ready on the 30% MPAs, we will just start off with the whole implementation of the 30% MPAs.
What has been the response like from the public consultation that the ministry has conducted so far?
So the public has been really appreciative. They realized that there was a need for centralizing ocean governance, because we've sort of had a lot of different committees looking at ocean governance. There was no centralized approach to it. So for the very first time, Fiji has done that, which means we don't have silos anymore. So it's gapping those bridges now and ensuring that our governance starts from community level as well. So which means we are involving line ministries. We are having open Talanoa dialogues within this framework that we have prepared, as well as going out through our line ministries, Ministry of Fisheries, the Itoke Affairs, to the grassroots level to capture what the issues are in terms of implementation, and then re-looking at that from a financial overview or economic overview. So how do we sort of finance these needs so that we can actually address what's happening on ground? So that's how this approach has been. So it really ensures that it's very, very much aligned to the National Development Plan that is set by the Fijian government, and in order for us to address some of the issues that have been missing. For example, how do you sort of address pollution or oil spill and waste within the ocean? How do you address plastic waste, polystyrene waste, and so forth? So I think these kind of issues were not holistically looked at before, so now they have been arranged to do so. And all these very key important committees through the Ministry of Fisheries, Foreign Affairs, and Environment will now all sort of discuss with each other how to achieve this outcome. Yeah.
Stay with us. After this break, we will speak to the Ministry of Environment, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Joshua Wycliffe, on his ministry's contribution to the National Ocean Policy. Welcome back. Two flagged outcome of the NOP, or the National Ocean Policy, are to declare 30% of Fiji's exclusive economic zone as marine protected areas with 100% sustainable management of our EEZ by 2030. These targets are consistent with Fiji's global commitments, such as the SDG 14, Life Below Water, and the 3030 initiative, led by Government of the United Kingdom. Here with me in studio is the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Environment, Mr. Joshua Wycliffe. Mr. Wycliffe, we'll start off with your ministry's commitment towards this policy.
The Ministry of Environment and its commitment to this policy obviously includes the 30% commitment that we've made, Fiji has made, and how we can help achieve that. The Ministry of Environment being the focal point for the Aichi targets, the CBD, we are mandated with ensuring that Fiji meets its Aichi targets, especially Aichi target number 11, where under the Convention of Biological Diversity, at least 17% of the terrestrial, both freshwater areas and 10% of coastal marine areas are preserved, especially those that are eco-sensitive and biodiversity hotspots are protected, and especially those that are represented, well-represented ecosystems. Biodiversity plays a very important role because biodiversity in the oceans especially helps regulate regulate the climate, and also it detoxifies the oceans, and also helps recycle nutrients to support marine life. But when the oceans get busier, and when there is more and more pressure and stress put on the ocean systems, then the biodiversity has a pressure on it itself. So then there's a decline in biodiversity, and that's a direct threat to marine life. So as far as we are concerned, our commitment is to ensure that we support not just the IC target, but also Fiji's 30% commitment to the global community.
So I understand it's an enormous task that the government cannot do alone. So how is the ministry working with partners?
Sure. It's very true. We cannot work on our own. We need friends and we need partners. We have a range of partners who work with us, both internally and externally. Internally, we have other government agencies whom we partner with, the relevant partners, partnership agencies, and we also work with other NGO, CSO partners. A major partner to date has been IUCN, and prior to that we had MacBio and IUCN partnership working closely with the Ministry of Environment. We also work with other governments. EU is a major donor and a support team for us. We've recently they've been generous to support us for Fiji alone, $1.55 million in support and work towards this 30% MPAs. We will extend our partnership and including we will seek at private sector, because we believe private sectors would need to be involved in terms of their responsibility and accountabilities to our oceans as well. We are looking at various models to work with them, including, if possible, commercializing MPAs. And the prospective MPAs, if they are commercialized, that will lead towards revenue. Because it's very important. It's one thing to be able to designate MPAs. It's totally another thing to be able to maintain them. So, because a typical concern sometimes raised by the private sector, or the fishing sector, is, well, we draw maps of the marine protected areas and then we exclude them and we go fishing elsewhere, but the lines can always get swayed under the water. I was just talking to a colleague of mine from IUCN, and she was reminding me of this concern that they had. So maintaining it, monitoring it, doing surveillance would require resources. And how we're going to get it is to be able to look at models where we can commercialize these MPAs that will win revenues, and then through the revenues we sustain this practice of the MPAs and being able to ensure those MPAs are established and are monitored.
So what do you think that people at the grassroots level can contribute? I understand the Nubukalo Creek cleanup, you were personally part of it. How does that contribute towards us achieving these targets?
The first and foremost is to get the communities on board, and of course individuals, a set of individuals make up a community. So what we do is we then look at how these individuals can contribute. And the first step towards getting the buy-in is to raise awareness. You know, why do we need an MPA? Why do we need this 30% community? It's not just the government, but it's also about every citizen out there who has a role to play in this 30%. So to raise the level of awareness among communities and individuals, to get the buy-in in terms of conserving species, conserving fisheries, so future generations could have, you know, it's putting like savings in the bank. It's you finish it overnight, you know, and then you left nothing for future generations or for yourself. So being able to raise that level of awareness where people want to save and save sensibly, and the same is with the ocean resources, being able to save. So once you raise the awareness and you have the buy-in, typical to the creek cleanup, you know, it's the buy-in. It's your city, a sense of pride. And so if you want to keep your city clean, the heart of Suva, that's what I was saying, that's the heart of Suva. So if you want to keep that heart of Suva clean, because that attracts people to come in. And so it's about taking ownership. So if people can take ocean's ownership, it's about the resources, the ownership for the resources in the ocean, then that'll be the turning point. So you'll have the buy-in, you'll have citizenry access, you'll have access from the fisher folk, you'll have access from people who make a living out of oceans, the communities surrounding these MPAs. So it'll be a movement, a national movement.
There you have it, the contribution the Ministry of Environment is making towards this national ocean policy. Stay with us. After this break, we will speak to an ocean specialist from the Ministry of Economy. Welcome back. I'm back here with the acting manager climate change and the ocean specialist with the Ministry of Economy, Mr. Raj. Mr. Raj, how will this policy impact or affect the people at the grassroots level, the people in the villages who are near to the marine protected areas?
Thank you. So the National Ocean Policy is an overarching policy. It's a very high level, policy that demarcates the different areas of work that we do in Fiji within the ocean space. So moving that or the policy into the steering committee space ensures that we filter it from a policy level down to the implementation level through the line ministries that actually work with the communities. The Ministry of Economy doesn't go and implement this ground level work. So through the steering committee, the policy will be filtered into the community level. So which means when line ministries are undertaking their respective work, whether it be fisheries or environment or maritime boundary issues, issues, they're aware of what the main guiding principle is around the national ocean policy, which has been endorsed by Cabinet. So it filters through this channel of mechanism, and then the policy itself sets a broad mission of protection within of our ocean space. So then it goes down from that into the community level. What is new here is that what we are adding is things such as ocean literacy, which means we are adding an education component to it for the first time. We'll be trying to develop curriculum within oceans and pilot it in secondary schools in Fiji, including formal, non-formal, and the informal education sector. So through this awareness and this curriculum, we wish to also further enhance capacity in the ocean space, building the understanding with the whole ocean climate nexus, ocean pollution, and so forth. So that's one key outcome. The second one is in terms of youth leadership. So through the policy, we are encouraging youth participation. So which means if you are a young person from high school or university and you feel you need a voice within this space, we welcome those kind of participation. So we'll be having like youth forums. We'll be encouraging more youth leaders to talk in this space and champion issues within your communities, which you face and feel that the steering committee or your government should be addressing. So that's how it works in terms of participation. And the policy also encourages participation by women. We in fact emphasize there is more women participation. So there's a huge gender role to it, which means if you have women in communities that feel like participating, contributing more to ocean governance, they should be able to do this. So it's giving women empowerment because we recognize the important link to women in fisheries and conservation and the whole livelihood aspects to our ocean space in Fiji.
Understand, to achieve all these targets, you need funding. Could you just talk about the partners with this policy and how are they assisting you achieve these targets?
Thank you. So we have had good support through the EU, through the PUMP project that we've been running in the Ministry of Economy. So they've provided a lot of assistance to us in terms of IUU fisheries, bycatch fisheries, coastal and marine fisheries, as well as, tuna species. As you know, tuna species are highly migratory species. So there has been discussions and work through, regional agencies to ensure that, fish stocks are being addressed. So a lot of work has been done through the EU partnership, especially through SPC, and we are sort of now also building a bit more capacity building. I recall last year we had a maritime boundaries workshop, which sort of prepared the Fijian delegation team towards negotiations, how to ensure that our maritime boundaries are secure. So a lot of capacity work, pilot case studies, as well as good on-ground regional and national implementation has been underway through this program, and we are now trying to work with other bilateral donor, NGO, and CSO partners to see how they can best fit within this space. So it's a very open space. No one sort of holds mandates here. We just would like to work together to see that the policy is implemented as it is set out in the 10-year implementation plan.
There are over 400 plus villages in the country that are managing their own marine protected areas. How does that contribution assist the ministry, and how will that help you achieve the targets?
So we do recognize the important work that has been ongoing within the community, especially by FLEMA. They're looking more towards inshore, MPA management, while the whole national ocean policy ideally talks a bit more in the offshore space. These are large marine protected areas. So while offshore MPAs are really critical, the most important ones are inshore because they're directly linked to community, their livelihoods, their fishing grounds, the angling grounds. So that kind of revolutionary work done by FLEMA within the communities has been very well acknowledged. We believe that has been the critical step that will prepare communities towards the other 30% target, and of course this inshore MPAs will add obviously to the 30% targets. So it's going work that's hand in hand. We do recognize the important work Conservation International is doing in terms of the Laos seascape. So there's a lot of community consultations by separate organizations and agencies, and we are all partnering up together. So we've merged this space into one. So it's not a Fijian government effort, but rather a national effort. So we'd like to again work with these partners, and the consultations have been really based around this, is to work hand in hand to recognize everyone's effort, to tie up the lessons learned, and then to work on the challenges ahead. Yeah.
What is a message to communities who have not taken the step like others to protect their marine areas? What is your message to them?
Our message is very clear, which is your ocean, is your health, which means we derive our protein from the oceans. Ocean regulates climate. Ocean is responsible for, what Fiji is now, including recreation and tourism activities. So if you don't protect your oceans today, if you litter oceans, if there are plastic issues, then you will not be able to get, the sustainable fishery stock that we talk about. You will not be able to sustain the health of our oceans, which means our food security will be a big question mark. So if we are to ensure that we have ample stocks and supplies of food within our communities, that we continue to say what Fiji is today, and pass this to our future generations, then we must protect our oceans. We must ensure that we are responsible citizens of this country, which is using our space very, in a very coherent manner, in a very sustainable manner.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raj.
Thank you.
That's the close-up for this evening. We thank our guests for being with us tonight. For questions, please send an email to news@fijitv.com.fj. Until next week, stay safe and good night.